It's Wulf, and it's an Outer Worlds video. So, I played through the Outer Worlds a couple weeks ago, and one of the things in the game that is brought up a whole bunch of times is the sport Tossball. However, one of the recurring jokes throughout the game is that the sport of Tossball is never really properly explained, so you don't know what sort of sport Tossball really is or how it's played or anything. And that had me wondering what type of sport Tossball could possibly be based off of. So I looked it up online, and there was a lot of people online saying lacrosse, which makes sense because through what we do see in the game in relation to Tossball and how it's played, there are a few indicators that Tossball could be similar to lacrosse, like it's a team sport and it's a contact sport, and also the Tossball sticks actually do look kind of similar to lacrosse sticks because they're sort of like a stick with a net on the end, and then Tossball sticks are sort of a stick with like a magnet on the end. But I was talking to my dad one day and we were talking about sports a little bit, and he mentioned a sport that I think actually could have been a major inspiration for Tossball, and that sport is jai-alai. A lot of you guys might not know what jai-alai is because it's a little bit of an obscure sport depending on where you live. But as I said, my dad was the one who mentioned jai-alai to me, so today, as a special guest appearance, we have a clip of my dad explaining what jai-alai is and how he heard about it, and in general just sort of the state of it in the real world today.
So my take on Highline would be I first saw it on Miami Vice when they started Miami Vice. And the way I saw it is if you watch the opening credits to Miami Vice, I don't know exactly where it's at, but you would see a highlight player. And because I had a friend that was from Florida and he used to go back in the summers down to Florida, and he would talk about like, oh, I can't wait to go watch the highlight when I get back down there. And so he was explaining some of the highlight and stuff to me about how highlights kind of like not weird, but just different because it's used as an alternative sport to give more like wagering choices for casinos and like even horse racing and stuff like that. So like when you watch a highlight game, it's like odds are given to the players that are out playing the game and everything. And based on the game, it's set up just like horse racing. So they have like win, place, show, that type thing. So anyway, he was explaining some of that, and I always thought it was kind of cool. But honestly, I never really paid a ton of attention about it. But, here lately, for some reason, I've just decided to like pay attention to highlight, and I'm probably catching up to it at the wrong time because it appears that highlight is like on its last legs in the United States right now. Highlight, what I really haven't talked about is the sport, but like it's kind of this combination of like racquetball and lacrosse, to where you have this thing, they call it a cesta, and you hang it on your arm, and we actually wrap it on your arm. So instead of a racket, you have this cesta, and that's kind of where the lacrosse part comes in. Reason it's like racquetball is you have a ball and you put the ball in the cesta and then you sling it at a wall, very similar to racquetball, and it comes back and you have to catch it, with one bounce. You can't let it bounce twice, and you have to catch it in that cesta, and then you got to turn around and sling it back. And everybody says it's the fastest sport in the world. Like the balls go up to like 150 miles an hour. So it's they have to wear some protective gear and things like that. But I think it's really cool. It's just a neat game. It looks like it's not to say that, I'm any kind of an athlete, but it looks like it can be understood and played without having to have like played your entire life at that sport. Like you can probably pick it up, especially if you're good at like racquetball or lacrosse or even like tennis or something like that. But it's only played right now in Florida. They used to have these frontons, which is the area, the racket court type thing. They used to have that in more casinos across the country. So like they had frontons in like Connecticut had one, I believe, and even up in Maine. But now it's just to Florida. It's a very South American and Spanish like originated sport. So Spain's really big, and a lot of the South American countries, they still have it. I think I read that it actually was played like one time in the Olympics. And it was only like between like Spain and maybe France or something. It was only one time, but it was in the Olympics at one point. And that's pretty cool that they do that. but I like it. You can only really watch it nowadays. I've heard that there's a few sports channels, like in some parts of the country, that will carry it, but you can always dial it up on like YouTube. Like currently tonight, they're doing games at Dania Beach. That's one of the locations. The other location is I think Dania Beach is also Miami. I'm not sure about that, but I think it's really in Miami, but they call it Dania Beach. And then there's Magic City Casino, which is also Miami. And then Fort Pierce, Florida says they have one, but it's not been open since COVID hit. And then Dania Beach, where they've done for 70 years, they're closing that place. So it's kind of weird that we're talking about it for the first time and that's happening. But I also have read some articles in the Miami area about how they have a lot of youth camps and youth workshops and things like that they've been developing in Miami to help try to build the sport back up. What they were saying on the news tonight was Dania Beach back like 30 years ago, 20 years ago, they would have like 10,000 people go watch a game. And nowadays they have like maybe 100. So that's the way that it's declined. But it's really cool. You look it up on YouTube. There's all kinds of stuff about it. And it is fast. It's fun. It's easy to understand. Looks like it's easy to play, easy to score. And it's a really cool sport.
So, I hope you guys enjoyed that explanation of jai-alai from my dad. It is cool to have him help out with the video and everything. So, as he mentioned, jai-alai is pretty similar in a lot of ways to sports like racquetball and squash, because it's a sport where there's a wall and a ball, and you throw the ball against the wall and the other person has to try to catch it, throw it back, that type of thing. Although there's also a lot of other differences. The equipment is pretty specialized, it's very fast-paced, and the court is sort of a weird shape because there's only 3 walls. And there's also some interesting differences when it comes to like how scoring works and how who is playing against who works and stuff like that. And I found a really good video that explains the rules of that sport really in depth, and I'll try to link that in the description if I can find it again. But anyway, as for how this relates to the Outer Worlds is Tossball. So the main thing that really caught my attention about this in relation to Tossball is the shape of the cesta compared to the Tossball blocker. The cestas used in jai-alai are curved, and Tossball equipment in the Outer Worlds also tends to be curved, and you can see that on the actual Tossball stick, although it's not as curved as the Tossball blocker. The Tossball blocker is way more similar to a cesta because it has really a similar shape to a jai-alai cesta, and also in jai-alai the cesta is sort of like wrapped around the player's hand, so there's not really a huge handle or anything. And also Tossball blockers have very short handles. It's kind of just a stick, but it's mainly just the curved magnet thing at the end. And also another similarity between jai-alai and Tossball is that they both are gambled on. As my dad mentioned, jai-alai tends to be played sort of in a manner similar to like how horse races work, and it's often played in casinos. As he said, for example, the Dania Beach one that he mentioned was played at the Dania Beach Casino. And a quick update on that also, since we recorded his audio, that program has actually shut down. It shut down a couple days before I recorded my portion of this video. But anyway, so jai-alai is a sport that people gamble on, and in the Outer Worlds, we see that Tossball is also a sport that people gamble on. And the easiest way to see this is the fact that there's just straight up a gambling parlor specifically revolving around Tossball on the planet Monarch. Plus, I'm pretty sure there's also various other mentions of Tossball being a sport that people gamble on in the Outer Worlds, because even though the Tossball parlor on Monarch might not actually be like an official legit parlor kind of thing, gambling place, I'm pretty sure that there's other indications throughout the game that people do like legitimately bet on Tossball and stuff, very similar to how people actually legitimately gamble on jai-alai at real casinos. Anyway, those are really the main 2 points that I had about the similarities between Tossball and jai-alai, or at least kind of the indicated similarities. I think there also probably are a whole bunch more that if you guys can think of, be sure to share them in the comments. I have no idea if this is an accurate theory or not. I know that in a lot of ways Tossball is very similar also to lacrosse, and honestly probably shares a lot more similarities with lacrosse, but it is notable how there are a few things that really sound a lot like they were inspired by jai-alai. So hope you guys enjoyed the video. Make sure to tell me your thoughts about if you think think Tossball is possibly based on jai-alai at all. And also just check out the sport of jai-alai in general. Ever since my dad and I have been talking about this type of thing for this video, we've both kind of been doing some research into it, and it is a really interesting sport, and a really interesting sport to watch also. And it kind of sucks that, at least in the US, it's sort of dying out a little bit, and you don't really see so much of it anymore, but there are still some other places where it's played and a little bit more popular. But anyway, thank you guys for watching the video. I'll see you in other ones, and bye-bye.